Hello and welcome once again to the Your Community Podcast as Hoosier Ag Today presents Your Purdue Extension, a podcast network. I'm your host, CJ Miller with Hoosier Ag Today, and joining us here on the Your Community Podcast is Tanya Hall with Purdue Extension. Her home office is in Orange County, which is near French Lick and Paoli, but she serves all of Indiana's 92 counties. And today we're going to be talking about ag and workforce development here on the Your Community Podcast. And Tanya, first things first, tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us your title and tell us about the work that you do with Purdue Extension, Tanya.
Absolutely. Well, hello. Thank you for having me on here. So my name is Tanya Hall. I serve as a community development regional extension educator who focuses on community economics and workforce development. So what does that really mean? Really, honestly, what that means is I really dabble into a lot of different areas when it comes to thinking about community vitality. So as in when it comes to community leadership, how do we build up the future leaders of our community or the current leaders of our community? I'm also working in community childcare. So how is it that we can support our childcare? So because that obviously has an implication when it comes to supporting the businesses in the community, because if they don't have steady workforce due to childcare, then that can be an issue. But then also when it comes to workforce development, I am thinking about from a system standpoint of how do we support a stronger workforce ecosystem that serves the local communities? And how does that work together with an extension in terms of the education to the business pipeline? So really kind of have my fingers in a lot of different spaces, but those are the three main buckets that I'm working on these days.
And Tanya, I know that before our interview, you emailed me a whole list of different programs that you're involved with. And I want to say there were half a dozen, if not more, specific programs that you had your fingers kind of dipped into. Tell us a little bit about those specific programs and how they impact not just the ag workforce here in Indiana, but I also understand that you have been connected with some national programs as well.
That is correct. And so at the national level, I'll start there. I'm actually one of the North Central coordinators when it comes to the Agri Prospects grant. And this is funded through NIFA, which is a USDA program. And essentially what this work is doing is that we are looking across the entire country of extension and saying, what are we doing when it comes to ag adult workforce development? And what I mean by that is like, what are some of the programs that we're offering across the country? But then more than that, more than just cataloging what we have out there, how do we build some connection pieces between entities? For example, at Cornell University, which is up in New York, they have a fantastic ag leadership program that is really geared towards, let's say, large scale dairies. And so we know that there are dairies in other parts of different parts of the country, including Indiana. And so how is it that we can take that program and maybe bring it to, let's say, Indiana? And how can we incorporate that into other existing livestock industries where they need this kind of training? So that's kind of the work that we're doing when it comes to agri prospects. But also within that is not only that connection piece across extension itself, but also thinking about when it comes to creating new programs, what might be some workforce pieces that we should add in? For example, we're really good with an extension is hearing from our local communities, what are the needs? Doing a needs assessment and then creating a program for that. But one thing with that piece is that that's what we call non-degree or non-credit kind of programming or education. That unfortunately is not recognized by the Department of Labor. And sometimes even, big universities don't recognize it because it doesn't speak the same language as what they are talking about. So really trying to encourage maybe extension professionals who are creating programs to think about how is it that we can take a fantastic training and program development that we're doing and just tweaking it just a little bit so that it is recognized by other players within the space so that we can further the work. So that's one example of something I'm doing at the national level. Another group that I'm working with or have worked with is actually a consulting company, and they were looking at extension in terms of our role when it comes to rural development and thinking about the role of ag workforce development. So there's been a lot of conversation at the national level as to how we can do this work and do it better, which has been exciting to see because I'm very much a strategic thinker and thinking about how can we improve our systems even better.
Chatting with Tanya Hall with Purdue Extension here on the Your Community podcast as we talk about ag and workforce development and trying to help those ag businesses and also help those individuals find careers in the ag workforce or ag with ag businesses, I should say. And I understand not only are you helping those communities, Tanya, but you're also helping those individuals as well, because there are a whole host of opportunities, career opportunities for those just out of high school that perhaps college may not be for them, but you have opportunities. You mentioned dairy farms. You mentioned a whole host of other farms. I know in your neck of the woods in southwestern Indiana, there are tons and tons of poultry farms, turkeys, and whatnot. So I would imagine also your goal is to also help place those individuals into those companies that are looking for work as well.
Yes, absolutely. And so this is the work that I don't do individually on a regular basis, but rather it's a network of educators across the state that do this work. But some programs that we have range from the Urban Ag Certificate. That's one that Nathan Schoaf, he runs here in Indiana. And so that is really about trying to help folks who are really interested in the urban ag space. How can they do that work and do it well? A very popular program that we have within Extension is the PARP program, which is the Pesticide Applicator Recertification Program. And this helps, private applicators, not only obtain their license, but also maintain their license in terms of that kind of training. So we have educators all across the state who do this every winter and throughout the year. Another newer one that just came out recently is the Organic Vegetable Farm Worker Apprenticeship. And so this is in Northwest Indiana that was done in partnership with Northwest Indiana Food Council. And we had an educator that worked with them to develop this apprenticeship program. And this is one that is recognized by the Department of Labor. It fits into the criteria that they have for that recognition. And we definitely can't forget about the digital ag curriculum. So we have a lot of work in this space when it comes to not only equipping those, like you mentioned, CJ, that maybe do not want to go onto college, but they want to go into maybe the ag industry when it relates to like soil health, precision ag, data management, things of that nature. And of course, we have a lot of UAVs. That part of the industry has really been gaining steam. And so thinking about how can we, when we have a program that can help equip them to run those little machines very well and also abide by the licensing requirements by the FAA. So there's a lot of different things that are out there that we can help, not only with those who may not be interested in going into college, but also those who are already in the workforce. How do we keep skilling up their knowledge and information and skills in doing this work well?
Once again, our guest is Tanya Hall with Purdue Extension, and we're going to continue our conversation about ag workforce development coming up here in just a few. We're going to take a quick break, but we'll be right back with more. You're watching and listening to the Your Community Podcast as Hoosier Ag Today presents Your Purdue Extension.
Every spring, planters hit the field setting the foundation for everything that follows. At Bain Welker Equipment, we're doing the same, building the future of our service team. If you've got mechanical skills, problem-solving grit, or hands-on experience, your talent shouldn't be stuck in neutral. Automotive, diesel, industrial, military, those skills transfer here. We're a proud Case IH dealer, keeping Case IH equipment running when farmers need it most. And that takes the best technicians in the business. Planting season is coming fast. The question is, are you ready for more or ready for the same? Better training, real advancement, a team that backs your growth. If you're ready to push further, earn more, and be part of something bigger. Visit bainwelker.com/work with us. Apply today and level up your career.
And we're back on the Your Community podcast as Hoosier Ag Today presents Your Purdue Extension, a podcast network. I'm CJ Miller, your host with Hoosier Ag Today, and we're chatting with Tanya Hall with Purdue Extension. She's based out of Orange County in southwestern Indiana, near Paoli and French Lick, and beautiful, beautiful part of the state down in southwestern Indiana. But she helps all 92 counties with different programs related to ag workforce development. And I understand that one of those programs is called Agri Prospects. Tanya, what can you tell me about Agri Prospects?
Yeah, Agri Prospects is a 5-year grant through NIFA, so it was funded by USDA. And honestly, it's a work to really trying to work with Extension across all 90, not 92 counties, but 50 states, trying to really understand what kind of work are we already doing in ag workforce development. And then with that, who might else be working in the same area of work in maybe another state? How can we link them together? For example, like one of the mini grants that we had, so we had 2 rounds of mini grants. One of the mini grants that we had came from Colorado State and University. And so I was working with them to help them think about their program when it came to working with agriability. And they were working with folks who had some, maybe some disabilities when it comes to their physical ways of how they can work and how can they work with farmers in terms of occupation. And so as the conversation evolved, it was like, okay, have you considered partnering with another state who's doing this kind of work? How can we might piece that into your curriculum? And so honestly, with that work with the Agri Prospects, we are really all about not only expanding the knowledge of what Extension is doing in ag adult workforce development, but also serving as a connector across the entire Extension system when it comes to the work that we are already doing and how can we do it even better.
And I'm kind of curious, what are some of the future opportunities for ag workforce development, not just here in Indiana, but across the Midwest and across the U.S. when it comes to that much needed ag labor workforce?
Yeah, that's a great question. And there's a lot of possibilities when it comes to ag adult workforce development. Of course, we have AI that's out here. That's really emerging technology. And of course, there's a lot of questions about it. But I've seen some really innovative ideas in terms of how we might use AI to help our current workforce synthesize vast troves of data that they are incurring. I'm thinking about not only within the fields when you do your when you do your soil mapping, but I'm also thinking about when you have troves of data when you're working in a pig farming operation or even your cattle operation. And so there's a lot of opportunities where the technology side is advancing so rapidly. And we have a lot of fantastic research that's happening on our campuses, but how do we take that information and put it into bite-sized pieces in a way that we can help our producers, help our agribusinesses to use that technology and also help upskill our workers to be able to use that technology in an effective way, while also recognizing there could be some boundaries that we need to make sure that we stay within, or some technology limitations that we have to be aware of. So that's just one small example of things that we can be working on moving forward in workforce development. But probably the biggest opportunity that we have is just really having a stronger system in terms of how we are working with different agencies that are already in the workforce space. There's no need to recreate the wheel, but also recognize that Extension has a long history, over 100 years of working in agriculture. And how do we fit that into existing workforce systems so that everybody wins?
When I think about Indiana agriculture, of course, one of the first things that come to mind, aside from corn, soybeans, pork, and beef, certainly is Purdue University and the work that you and the entire team with Purdue Extension does across all of Indiana's 92 counties. But Indiana is also a home for a great number of ag businesses. For example, Corteva, Elanco Animal Health, so many other businesses that are headquartered right here in Indiana. Roseacre Farms, for example, in Jackson County, near the Seymour area. So you have a whole host of ag businesses. Tell me about some of the work that you also do, and tell me about some of those ag businesses here across Indiana that have been a major help to Purdue Extension in working with you and your team.
Yeah, that's a great question. And so, one of the things that with our larger corporations that we have here in Indiana, they tend to have a stronger connection with campus and the professors that are on campus, which is fantastic because they usually have some very specific research that they need or very specific requests that they have. And so, I think what we do within Extension is we work a little bit further down the chain. And so really thinking about, for example, Rose Acres, they would have a lot of contractor operations who feed into their operations. So how is it that we can help the farmers, especially with the avian flu influenza, giving out timely information about what they can do, how can they mediate? That's one example of how we can support them. And so I think a lot of times we can also think about how can we train those other entities that are out in the field that connect to the bigger company headquarters that we have based here in Indiana. So it kind of varied in terms of what is needed locally. Again, it could be that workforce readiness, maybe thinking about how do we equip a high schooler who is thinking about maybe not going into college, but also expanding their awareness of what some of those companies are that we have in our own backyard that they see, but they don't understand what they are. And so that could be that immersion within 4-H or youth development. It could be just that exposure of what kind of work they do. And so those are some examples of how we work with some of the larger companies.
If someone is watching this podcast or they're listening and they'd like some more information about perhaps teaming up with Purdue Extension, let's say they are a business owner, an ag business owner, or perhaps they happen to be a part of a Purdue Extension program in another part of the state, and they just want to pick your brain. They want to reach out to you and get some more information from you, Tanya. How's the best way to get a hold of you and your team with Purdue Extension?
Yeah, absolutely. You're definitely more than welcome to send me an email, and I am happy to serve as a connector. I feel like that's one of the knowledge areas that I have is understanding who across Extension is doing what kind of work when it comes to workforce development. And so ranging from turfgrass management, understanding who within our horticulture department is doing that kind of work well. And so that could be one example where I can just serve as a connector to the right folks. Instead of just sending an email to a black box, you got a warm face and that you can send an email to, and I can definitely serve as that connection piece.
And what is your email address, by the way, Tanya?
Yeah, it's tjhall@purdue.edu.
Oh, easy enough. TJ Hall at Purdue.edu. And before I let you go, I always ask this question at the end of the podcast. Is there anything else that I've forgotten to ask or that you'd like to include as part of our conversation here today regarding the Ag Workforce Development Program with Purdue Extension?
Yeah, I think the final thing I want to mention is workforce development, in a sense, is very complicated. It's a very complex system. But at the end of the day, I think how we are defining workforce development is that skill development, thinking about how can we upskill you to the next step. And again, whether that is maybe all you need is just to come to a program to learn some more knowledge. Fantastic. Maybe you need to do something where you get a certificate. Maybe you're on your way to needing to get a license. And whatever that is, I think what we can do with Extension is walk alongside you and help you understand what are the options and how can we help you move along your career pathway. And with that, we're more than happy to work with any employer or industry group who is interested in maybe tackling a niche within their workforce development or talent retention or talent attraction to think about what does that look like. But at the end of the day, the beauty of Extension is that we not only are we a link to research on campus, but we also have a connection to our local communities. And between the two of those, we can really serve as that great middle ground to help meet the needs with the emerging technology and information so that we can equip our workers to be even more effective today and tomorrow.
Once again, Tanya Hall with Purdue Extension, the Ag and Workforce Development Program, and her email address, once again, tjhall@purdue.edu. And Tanya, you and I could talk for several more hours about ag workforce development in Indiana, but certainly I'll let you get back to work since you're a very busy, busy individual. But Tanya, thank you so much for your time here today on the Your Community podcast here on Hoosier Ag Today. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching and listening to the Your Community podcast as Hoosier Ag Today presents Your Purdue Extension, a podcast network. If you're watching this on YouTube, let's say you're watching this online on the Hoosier Ag Today YouTube channel, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Those little buttons at the bottom, just below the video screen. That way, with every new podcast, every new video we upload, you will be among the first to be able to see them. Not just the Your Community podcast, but Your Health, also Your Farm, and 4-H for You, as well as a whole plethora of videos that we share on the Hoosier Ag Today YouTube channel. So once again, like, share, and subscribe. Hit those buttons below. And also be sure to like us on Facebook, connect with us on LinkedIn, and also connect with us on X, what used to be known as Twitter, at Hoosier Ag Today. I'm CJ Miller with Hoosier Ag Today. Thank you so much for watching the Your Community Podcast.